Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to the next session on commodity derivatives and risk management. And just to refresh your memory, in the last session we discussed about different aspects or different parameters which is influencing the soya bean prices, soya bean, soya meal and soya oil prices. We will be continuing with the remaining part of the same three commodities. Now we ended up the last session by discussing what would be the hedging decision for a company which has already committed to selling soya meal at a fixed price. It does not have soya bean inventory in its at its disposal. It has to buy soya bean from the open market, and considering the global prices and whatever is happening in India, he is expecting the soya bean price is going to go up. He does not have a freedom to increase the soya meal prices. He also does not have the freedom to increase the soya oil price because it is facing stiff competition from other soya oil branded manufacturer, as well as it is also it cannot increase the soya oil prices because the price of competing product is less, in the sense the mustard oil and sunflower oil and palm oil, which people can alternatively use in place of soya oil, that those oil prices are not also not increasing. So that is the reason why the company feels that it will not be able to increase the soya oil prices, as well as it will not be able to increase the soya meal price. However, it has to buy soya bean price at a higher price from the spot market. In that case, what is going to be the decision, or how this particular party is going to mitigate its risk? Now let's go to, so if you recall, we ended up in this particular slide in the previous session. So let me as I have already summarized. So the last point which is mentioned in the slide is that unless the company does something, it will end up incurring loss as its margin is getting squeezed. So when we are talking about margin, that means it is going to get a fixed price for its revenue, and it will be but its input cost is going to go up because its soya bean prices is going up. Now in this context, I would like to discuss something called a cross margin or a cross spread. So what is exactly is a cross spread? So soya bean, as we have discussed quite a few times, soya bean is processed into two products: soya bean meal and soya bean oil, or soya meal and soya oil. And this process is also known as crushing. And if you recall, last session also I showed a small brief YouTube video on the process of extraction of soya bean to soya oil and soya meal. And when we are talking about cross margin or cross spread, we talk about the difference between the combined value of the product and the value of the soya bean. So price of soya meal plus price of soya bean minus the price price of soya meal plus price of soya oil minus the price of soya bean gives us the cross margin. However, whenever a company is undertaking activities related to crush, it has some cost associated with it. Normally, companies do not own the crushing mills. There are independent crushing mills, and these companies enter into some kind of a leasing agreement and pay the crushing cost to these companies and collect the soya meal and soya oil from these crushers. So they provide soya bean, and based on the metric ton of crushing done by the independent crusher, the company which is crushing the soybean, these companies pay crushing fee as well as a refining fee. So now when we are talking about cross margin is, as you can see in the formula given, price of soya oil plus price of soya meal minus the price of soya bean plus crushing cost of soya bean and refining cost of crude soya oil. So okay, let me at this point of time say I tend to pronounce soya bean and soya meal. In Indian context, mostly we use the word soya meal, but probably in some other countries or some other places it will be soy meal or soybean. So I'm used to pronounce it as soya bean, soya meal, etc. So I hope it is fine with you all. Okay, now let's go to continue with our discussion on cross margin. So what is a cross margin? Cross margin is price of output minus the price of input plus some cost associated with the conversion of input to the output. So that is basically the margin, cross margin. So let's take an example, real life example, how this cross margin is calculated. So this is the example. I hope it is visible to all of you. This some information pertaining to soya bean, soya oil and soya meal spot prices available to you, and the cost of crossing and refining of crude soya oil. That is, the cost of crossing soya bean and the cost of refining crude soya oil is also available. One thing I would like to repeat here is that companies who are into branded soya oil manufacturer, or sometimes companies do not sell branded soya oil. They produce soya meal, sell it to the local animal and plant feed manufacturer, and they sell the refined crude soya oil to other companies who are in the business of selling branded soya oil. So all these companies pay a refining cost and crushing cost, and this cost normally varies around 750 to 800-900 rupees per metric ton of crushing cost, and around 2 to 2.5 rupees per kg of crude soya oil which gets refined. So this data may be varying some amount year to year, but remains in this range. So using this value, calculate the cross margin with for a soybean crusher. So if a crusher is a company which is buying soybean and crushing it and refining and selling the oil and soya meal, what is going to be the profit margin? And calculate the cross margin if soybean price increases by 200. So simple calculation, it's nothing, I mean it's just a simple calculation, and it indicates, if you see, the answer to the first part of the question is, it is a positive cross margin. So that means by crossing soya oil, by crossing soya bean and selling soya oil and soya meal and paying for crossing and refining cost. The crosser or the company which is in the business of branded soya oil manufacturing, it is incurring a profit of 1960 rupees, and with only 200 rupees increase in the soybean prices, everything else remaining constant, the cross margin turns to negative 40.5 rupees, or let's say 41 rupees per every metric ton of soya bean getting crushed. Now, so the next question, as we have, I have reiterated substantial number of times that even if soya oil and soya meal is derived from soya bean, but the price movement of these three commodities can be substantially different, leading to a substantially high positive cross margin to a substantially low or substantially negative cross margin. Now let's take the real life example to find out what is going to be the what is the cross margin, or what has historically been the cross margin in Indian context. So this particular link shows the cross margin in India based on the spot price prevailing at Indore. So spot price prevailing spot price of soya bean and soya meal and soya oil prevailing at Indore has been considered for calculation of cross margin. So let me take you to the link file. So this is the file. If you see, this data again starts from the 22nd June 2011. It runs into 29th January 2016. Again, data has been downloaded from the Bloomberg website. Bloomberg data source. I'm sorry, it's not website. Bloomberg data source. And if you see the cross margin, a maximum positive cross margin, I want all of you to focus these two data points. Maximum cross margin is 9,280 rupees to a minimum cross margin is negative of 1399 or 1400 rupees. And for calculation of cross margin, I have not factored in any change in the crossing cost and refining cost. I have assumed around 1200 rupees per metric ton as the combined cost associated with crossing and refining of 1000 metric ton of soya bean. With this, you can see in actual reality how the cross margin has changed from a high of 9,280 to a negative value of 1,400. So if cross margin is going to be negative, that means by doing a business of buying soya bean and selling soya oil and soya meal, the company is going to incur loss. So in that case, what is going to be the strategy of the company, how this risk can be mitigated? Because a company cannot say that we are not going to cross soybean and make soya oil and sell make and sell soya oil and soya meal. It is not, it cannot say that, because a company who is earns its revenue by selling these two products has to continue to do it for some foreseeable time period. So maybe it can defer the situation, this decision of not crossing for some time, but it cannot say that we will not do it for over a long period of time, because all of us, we know that if the company does not generate any revenue, even if it is not generating any revenue, it will still be incurring certain fixed cost, and so a company cannot afford to be idle for long period of time. So now the next question is how this company can mitigate the risk. Okay, now let me again summarize what we discussed with respect to cross margin. So when we say the widening of the cross margin happens when the price of soya bean increases at a lesser rate vis-a-vis the price increase of soya oil and soya meal combined together. And narrowing of cross margin happens when soya bean price increases at a faster rate as compared to the combined increase of price of soya oil and soya bean. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention here in the previous part of my discussion or during a previous discussion is that 1 kg leads to 18 grams of soya oil and 82 grams of soya meal. Now, the future price of these three commodities can give us an indication regarding whether the what is going to be the movement of the cross margin at a later point of time. So how do we calculate the cross margin based on the futures price? So instead of using the spot price prevailing in the at a given point of time, we have to consider the futures price traded at, let's say, NCDEX. So if we are considering the near month futures price, so M1 prices of soya oil, soya meal and soya bean after factoring in the processing cost and refining cost, we will be able to calculate what is going to be the future cross spread prevailing at this point of time today. So that is going to give us an indication whether the cross margin is going to increase or decrease. So if, let's say, at today point of time, if future cross margin is greater than the spot cross margin, it is profitable for us to defer crossing. So a company can defer or reduce the crossing activity for some time to come if it feels that the cross margin is going to improve at a later point of time. Similarly, the other way around, if futures cross margin is going to be lesser, it's lesser at this point of time vis-a-vis the spot cross margin, it is better to cross now and sell soya oil and soya meal, and not defer the activity or increase the activity at this point of time. And if there is conducive market situation, it should cross and sell the output and do not defer its decision to defer its crossing activity to a later point of time. Unfortunately, in Indian exchanges, Indian commodity derivative exchanges, you do not have soya meal futures contract available. So because of that, I am not able to show you what is the futures cross margin and compare it with the spot cross margin. However, in international commodity exchanges, many commodity exchanges have soya bean and soya oil and soya meal derivative contracts listed, because soya, as I mentioned, soya oil, soya bean is one of the largest oil seed being produced in India, produced in all over the world. So 55% of the total oil seeds which is being produced all over the India constitutes soya bean. Now I'll just give you an example of how derivative contracts combining these three products are available for trading at Chicago Board of Exchange. So I'll just show you the contract specification of CBOE. So please see this one. This is a soybean cross option contract specification, and the link from where I have downloaded this contract specification is given. This is CME Group and Agricultural Commodity, and I just want you to focus on the underlying. Please see this one. What is the underlying? The underlying is a cross futures contract. Please recall, we discussed in some earlier sessions that option contracts have futures as underlying. So it is it's a future contract, but it is not a futures contract on a individual commodity. It is a future contract which derives its value from a cross the cross margin. So the underlying is soybean cross synthetic futures. So based on the futures price prevailing at CBOE, the underlying value is calculated. So the word synthetic means it is not a traded value. This futures is not traded. Earlier, at one point of time at CBOE, you had soybean cross futures was traded, but now this trading of this particular contract has not been done. Is not being done. However, the value is calculated, as I mentioned just a couple of minutes back. The synthetic cross soybean cross margin can be calculated by subtracting the price of M1 prices of soybean, M1 prices of soya meal and soya oil prices to soybean prices after factoring in the refining and crushing cost. Will be getting futures cross spread. So because these values are calculated from the futures price series, we will be calling it as a futures spread, cross spread. So this soybean cross synthetic future is the underlying, and this being an option, it can be a call option and put option. So and we also have discussed when an option will be an in the money and out of money, and with respect to call and put option, and the same concept what you have learnt in your financial derivative subjects. The same concept is applied. We also have discussed this aspect in detail in one of the earlier sessions. So if the soybean cross synthetic futures is going to be compared with the exercise price, so depending upon whether it is a call or put option, if exercise happens, please see this one. If call option is exercised, the long call position holder will take 11 soybean meal futures and 9 soybean oil futures contract. So if I have taken a long call position holder and it's in the money with respect to the synthetic soybean cross futures value, then I will take long position in soya meal and soya oil futures, and I will simultaneously take short position on 10 soybean futures contract. Similarly, if I have taken a long put position and I am in the money, I will be taking short position in soya meal and soya oil futures, and I will take long position in soya oil futures contract. So this kind of futures and option contract based on soybean cross margin gives an opportunity to a company which is in the business of buying soybean and crossing and selling soya oil and soya meal to mitigate the price risk associated with mitigate the risk associated with the fluctuating cross margin by entering into one contract. otherwise this the company has to enter into 3 contracts and pay 3 different mark to market margin, etc. So with one of this contract the company will be able to mitigate its risk associated with the varying cross margin. So let me summarize what we have discussed in this session, and in fact this is going to be our last session on understanding different aspects of agricultural commodity derivatives. We will be discussing about the crude oil commodity derivatives in our next session. So as part of the discussion over last 4 sessions covering the risk associated with agricultural commodity, we discussed about different aspects of seasonality. We also discussed a different aspect of backwardation contango. We also discussed different aspects pertaining to getting an understanding of what factors which could have a bearing on commodity prices, and how different consumers or producers and value chain partners can use these futures and option contracts to mitigate the price risk. So what is the key questions with respect to the last couple of sessions? So how seasonality in common commodity prices can be identified, and what factors should be considered for forming a view regarding a future price, and why should a group of related commodities, that is for example your soya bean, soya oil and soya meal, they are absolutely related commodities. However, even if they are related commodities, they do not move in similar fashion, leading to different spot future relationship for different commodities. And also how this commodity prices can be hedged using single contracts such as cross spread option contracts. So this brings an end to our discussion, and as I mentioned, we will be starting our discussion on different aspects of crude oil and other associated product risk management in our next class. And customarily every time I say that, and today also I am going to say this, I am looking forward to interacting with you all very soon. Thank you, all of you.